Right now, your garden is essentially dying. A lot of the things that you planted in the spring and the summer, they've given you those harvests, they've gone through their life cycle, and they're starting to die off. If you don't do anything about it right now, your gardening season is essentially over. Or you can follow these 5 steps. You can plant a fall garden and you can continue to get harvest clear until after the first frost. Step 1 is you need to get some seeds planted, and they can't just be any old seeds. You need to make sure that it's right for the fall time. You hear a lot about spring crops, summer crops, fall crops, all these different things, and it can get kind of confusing. I'm gonna break this down and make it as easy as I possibly can. If you don't know what types of things you can grow in your area in the fall, I want you to do a quick Google search. Just get onto Google and type in average first frost date for blank, whatever your area is. I want you to take your average first frost date and I want you to count how many days away that is from today, right now. How many days do you have from right now until you're gonna get your very first frost of the season? Take out anything anybody says about what plants you should be growing at what times of year. Just forget all that, just to make this easy, forget all that and just think about, I have X amount of days from today until the average first frost date. And if you look at the seeds that you have, so whatever seeds you're trying to grow, if you look at the back of your packet, you're gonna see days to maturity. That is a very important number. So this one is 60 days to maturity for pickling cucumbers. If I look at any of these, so I've got bush beans, mellow yellow, and this is 55 days to maturity. So what you wanna do is you wanna find plants that are well under the amount of days that you need until your first frost. So let's say my first frost right now is 80 days away. Something like this, the bush bean, where it has 55 days to maturity, that's gonna be a perfect plant to start growing right now. And another thing you really wanna consider is days to germination. So this has 5 to 10 days to germinate, and it has 65 days to maturity. You want to add those 5 to 10 days to the 65 days. So a lot of people think that if you put the seed in the ground, that's day 1, but realistically, it isn't day 1 until that seed germinates. There's also gonna be plants that don't really follow the first frost rule. They can handle a little bit of a frost, so that's also something to look into. I know we are gonna be doing kale, lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, different things that can handle a little bit of that cold weather, and so you can kind of have some wiggle room there. Get your seeds started, whether it be indoors or outdoors, get them started somewhere, so that way you have a head start before you start any of these other steps. Step 2 is you wanna get rid of anything in your entire garden that is dead or dying. For us, it was a lot of the cucumbers were kind of on their way out. They had given us cucumbers all season long. The plants were still alive, but they weren't doing very well. They were kind of starting to turn yellow, starting to crisp up. Some parts of the plants were still alive, but they weren't going anywhere. They were at the end of their life cycle. Rip all that stuff out. All of your melons that have produced melons for you, and now they are just this shriveled, dried up vine sitting on your trellis or in your garden somewhere. Rip all that stuff out. You want to get rid of anything in your garden that is no longer useful to you. That is the whole point of this. We need to get rid of anything in here that you are not using anymore. Step 3 is gonna be you wanna harvest everything in your garden right now. Everything that is ready to be harvested, harvest it right now. The reason for this is you want to get a good, clear indication of what else you can pull out of your garden. There's no better way of understanding the health of your plants than going through and dealing with all of your plants, spending time with all of your plants. A good example of this is going to be determinate tomatoes. A determinate tomato, if you don't know, is a tomato that grows to a specific size, and then it puts off a big harvest of tomatoes. You get a whole bunch of tomatoes all at once, but then after that, the plant's done. It doesn't grow anymore. The plant might stay alive for quite a while, but it's not going to put off any more tomatoes for you. When you compare that to an indeterminate tomato, like I'm in the jungle of right now, an indeterminate tomato is going to grow and grow and grow until the end of the season when a frost kills it off. And what that does for us is it tells us if we have already gotten our harvest from our determinate tomatoes, we don't need those plants anymore. They're just taking up space that we could potentially be using for something else like a fall crop. Now we're into step 4, and this is where you need to start making some difficult decisions. It's in our nature as gardeners to plant stuff because we think it's cool and we're excited about it. But then when the season comes, we plant them, they start growing. Do we actually use that food? Do we harvest it when we're supposed to be? Do we cook it in the kitchen? Do we preserve it? Do we do anything that is useful to us with that plant? I'm betting that you have a plant in your garden right now that you grew thinking you were going to use, but you never used it. Why keep that in your garden? If you have a plant that is taking up space, get rid of it. Yes, I now am covered in stains all over my shirt because the cougar needed some help with the baby, and obviously I had to go help with the baby. The cougar's the boss. Normally, any gardener that has ever grown anything, when you plant your plants, you start going through the season, you start realizing that you have some plants within your garden that just struggle. They struggle to grow. They have disease issues, pest issues, they have issues setting fruit, they have whatever the issue might be. At some point, you're gonna realize that you've got 5% of the plants in your garden, they're struggling, they're not producing anything for you. These are the plants that you really need to start thinking about removing from your garden and making room for your fall garden. Get rid of everything. Take emotion out of it. I get emotionally connected to like my pepper plants because peppers are where I got my start in gardening. If you've been on this channel for any amount of time, peppers are where I got my start. And I have pepper plants that like, they won't grow any peppers whatsoever, but in my head, I'm like, no, it's fine. It's gonna start producing here in the next month. It's whatever, it's good. No, these plants, they're not gonna produce. If they haven't produced by the end of August, chances are they're not gonna produce at all. Remove these plants from your garden. Let's put some stuff in the place of those plants that will produce food for you in the fall. And that brings us to the next step, which is step 5, and that is put your starts in your garden. Get them planted, get them in the ground. You don't want them sitting in their trays anymore. We're gonna start out today with some pole beans. Pole beans, depending on what kind you're growing, they're gonna have a days to maturity of anywhere between like 50 and 70 days, depending on what they are. These ones are gonna be stringless, so stringless pole beans. We do a couple things as we're planting. I'm gonna start out with some bone meal, and I'm gonna throw a little bit of bone meal in the holes here. So we're gonna throw some bone meal in there, and then we're gonna throw some just organic garden tone fertilizer. I really do like this stuff a lot. I'll put links in the description for both of these, but anytime I plant something, I normally put both of these things in the hole. So just kind of sprinkle some in there. And then I'm gonna start coming through and putting my pole beans in these holes. And then as they grow, I'm gonna put them up this trellis. There's nothing else this time of year that is gonna be growing up these trellises. And there's nothing else this time of year that's still growing up these trellises from when I was growing earlier this season. So what we can do is exactly what we did. We ripped all of them out. Even if they still looked like they were producing, like our Armenian cucumbers, that plant was absolutely massive. It was still taking up an entire arch trellis from front to back, the whole thing. It was pretty much taking up that whole thing. I ended up ripping it out because we've already gotten like 30 cucumbers off of that plant. And in place of that one Armenian cucumber, I can plant so many different beans on that same trellis from side to side. So I can put some on this side, I can put some on that side, and I can really utilize that space much more efficiently than I could with the single Armenian cucumber. And I have a lot more pole beans to plant, but instead of showing you all that, I'm gonna show you what else we have growing for our fall garden. We're also growing some sunburst squash, otherwise known as patty pan squash. And right now they're just really little. We've got 4 of them growing in this one bed. These squashes are absolutely amazing. They have about a 50-day days to maturity. So they are really fast producing, and they make these little yellow saucer shaped squashes that what we end up doing with them, what my wife ends up doing with them is she cuts the top off. She kind of takes out the seeds and stuff, and it makes like a little bowl. She'll take kind of like a lasagna filling. She'll take like the sausage and the tomato sauce, and she'll also cut up some eggplant in there, onions, just all sorts of stuff. She'll make kind of, this awesome tomato-based filling in there, and she will fill them up, put cheese on top, bake those sunburst squash. It just turns into this really amazing tasting dish that I absolutely love it when she makes it. So we only planted 1 in the spring, but for the fall garden, I'm putting 6 in here because I loved it so much, and squash bugs ended up killing it last time. So I want to make sure we're well prepared for meals this fall. Broccoli and cauliflower are also 2 good crops to be growing. Cauliflower takes a little bit longer, but it does handle frost a little bit. So we planted a whole bed of cauliflower, which was kind of brave because we're pushing it on the days to maturity there. But if it doesn't work out for us, that's okay. I'm a risk taker. It's fine. It's not a huge risk because my animals get fed if I don't. Broccoli, on the other hand, I think it's 60-ish, 65 days until maturity, and they as well can handle a little bit of a frost. So broccoli and cauliflower are definitely a good bet for the fall. Bush beans, like this entire bed I have here behind me, this is also a great bet for the fall. If you don't have a trellis or anything that you can grow vertically for your beans, consider bush beans, because these bush beans, depending on the variety, are going to be between 50 and 70 days So if you don't have a whole lot of time, if you kind of find the varieties that are closer to 50 days rather than 70 days, that'll work out great for you. But bush beans are really awesome because a lot of them are self-supporting. You don't need to worry about a trellis, anything like that. We have the freeze dryer. I'm gonna make some cool little bean things. We're gonna be canning some for things like Bloody Marys. I'm sorry about the crazy shadows and glare on my face. It's like 7 p.m. and the sun's going down. Just bear with me. And this bed here behind me is probably kind of too hard for you to see, but we have things like basil, cilantro. We've got some different romaine lettuces, some speckled lettuce, some merlot lettuce, all sorts of different lettuces. We also have kale. If you are interested in kale can actually get down to below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And so it can handle some of that frost. Lettuce can also handle a little bit of a frost. So lettuce, kale, leafy greens, things like that are gonna be one of the absolute best things to grow in the fall, because if it's not quite ready yet before you get your frost, you can continue to grow it through that frost, and you can really be harvesting well past like Thanksgiving. Like for me, my first frost is in October, and realistically I could be harvesting well into November if I'm using some of these leafy greens like I am right here. We also have pickling cucumbers, and pickling cucumbers are something that my family just runs through so fast because we've got 5 kids. We run through pickles. We also have different romaine lettuces we've got going on here. We have Merlot lettuce. This is a very beautiful lettuce plant. They're just a really deep, beautiful red color. We have speckled lettuce, which is this green lettuce that has kind of these red spots on it. An entire tray back here of different pole beans. We really ripped so much stuff out of our garden yesterday, the day before, when I filmed everything in slow motion. We ripped so much stuff out of our garden, and I tried to show you all of it, but it was not working. None of the audio was there in slow motion. But if you want to see what the garden looked like before I ripped everything out, all the different awesome things we are growing this season out here in the garden, go ahead and watch this video here where we show you everything we are growing, how it did, what we were using it for, how we were cooking it, how we grew it, all the things. Go watch that video and I will see you there.